Alright, hello everybody. My name is Tim, and I'm going to be telling you all today a folktale from my culture, which is Poland. So I hope you all enjoy. The title of this folktale is The Eagles. So, one day, long, long ago, there was a king who ruled over a vast dominion. And he loved his wife, the queen, very, very much. And together they had 13 beautiful children, 12 princes, and one princess who was known across all the land. Well, unfortunately for the king, his wife fell ill and died. And a great sorrow fell upon this man. He was brokenhearted. He visited her tomb every day, praying, giving almsgiving, and he promised his children that he would never marry again, that he would never bestow onto them a stepmother. Well, one day when he was going to the tomb, he saw a woman, a beautiful woman, and like a spell came over the king. He instantly fell in love with her and married this woman. He went back on his word and married her. Well, the king was happy and all was well in the kingdom until the king had to go to war with the enemies. And the queen was given dominion to rule over all the land. Well, that was until her true motives were exposed. For the queen sought power and control, and she had one son whom she wanted to be the next king and to get rid of the king. So, the queen ventured into the chambers of the princes and the princess and turned them all into birds. She turned all 12 princes into eagles, and she turned the one princess into a dove. And as she opened the window to let them all fly away, she looks outside and she sees a man, an old man with a big white beard, standing outside. And this man, she says, "What are you doing there?" And the old man says, "I'm a witness." And the queen said, "So you saw?" And the old man said, "Yes, I did," and immediately disappeared, vanished, and turned the queen into a basilisk, a mythological creature with emerald green skin, and whoever looked upon this creature would instantly die. Well, the queen panicked, as we all can imagine, and began scurrying underground, looking for anywhere to hide, to avoid people. Well, anyone who gazed upon her died, and the castle was now all dead. As she rounded the corner, on the last step before she got underground, she looked upon her own very son, who perished. Well, the queen hid underground, waiting for the king's return. Meanwhile, the eagles were flying away to an unknown destination, and the dove, the princess, the once beautiful princess, was following them, attempting to catch up, but she couldn't. She began to feel sorrow, despair. She almost gave up. She found a wooden post and began to perch on it, started crying, when that same old man with the big white beard came on down and said, "What is the matter?" And the princess said, "I'm sad. I'm sad for my father, for my brothers, and for me. For now I must spend my entire life hiding from birds of prey. For I was once a beautiful princess, and now I am just a dove." And the old man said, "Sorrow is only temporary." And he went up to her and stroked her feathers, and immediately turned her right back into a human. And the princess was extremely gracious, went up to the old man, hugged him, and thanked him very much for all that he had done. But she said to him, "What should I do with my brothers? How will I find them? How can I bring them back?" All the old man did was give her wisdom and a few gifts. He gave her an everlasting loaf of bread. This bread will never end. It can feed thousands and thousands of people. And he gave her a little tube, a little glass tube, that she was supposed to cry in, and she was given further instructions for later. She departed from the old man and started following the eagles to an unknown abyss with a gate and a guard standing at the gate. It was death, the next world. Death was at the gate, as it exclaimed to the princess, "Stop! Stop right there. No one is allowed to enter the gate." And the princess said, "But what about my brothers Am I supposed to return home without them? And Death said, well, your brothers come here every day flying, attempting to get in, but just like you, they cannot, for their time in this world is not yet over. So the princess departed and waited for her brothers to come the next day. Soon, before she knew it, 12 eagles started flying by, attempting, brushing their heads against the gates, trying to get in, to squeeze in, but they were not allowed. They were turned back and began departing back when they see their sister, the princess, standing there. And they flew down immediately at her. Gracious. And immediately the princess remembered what the old man said, had the little tube full of tears, and threw it and sprinkled it all over them. Immediately, these eagles were turned back into the princes that they once were and began hugging the princess, very gracious to them. But they realized, it came to a realization, and they said to the princess, we're in this abyss. Well, we'll never escape. What are we to do? We have no wings. What do we do? Immediately, the princess got on her knees, started praying, and said, please, please, send a bird, send something, help us, help us. Immediately, a big bird flew on down. Gigantic bird, rainbow feathers, eyes like a peacock. The bird was so large that it agreed to take them all across, back home. They were going to be saved. But the bird had a few conditions. For the bird said to them, I am a very weak bird, that I need to eat or I will die. The princess realized, I have this loaf of bread the old man gave me. I'll feed you. Fly us and I'll feed you every time. Look around and I'll feed you. So they all hopped on the back of the bird. And as they were flying away to safety, out of the abyss, every time the bird would look around, the princess would feed it the never-ending loaf. And they'd go a little further, a little bit longer. The bird would look around, it'd feed it the never-ending loaf. Confidence grew among them. They began to realize they were going to make it home when out of nowhere a gust of wind came up from under the abyss, grabbed the loaf, took it down with it, and they were lost. They had nothing to do. For what else was there to do? They have no more food. The bird began looking around, but there was no food to give the bird. When the princess grabbed a chunk of her arm, got it, it's full of blood, she handed it to the bird ate it, kept on flying, said nothing. A little bit further, as they see on the horizon, they see the kingdom, they're about to make it home. When the bird starts looking around one more time, the princess, already bleeding, grabs another chunk of her arm out, gives it to the bird, and they land on the ground safely. When they arrived, the bird says, what was that last 2 things that I ate? What was that? For it was very tasty. And the bird realized what he had done, realized that he had ate this woman's flesh, the beautiful princess. He breathed on her arm and she was healed immediately. And as the bird departed instantly, going back up to heaven, and the children, these princes and this one beautiful princess, began to go back home. They met up with their father, and they began to hear word of a basilisk that was terrorizing the castle. When word came that this basilisk looked in a mirror and killed itself, they returned home to the kingdom. They took the remains of the basilisk, burned it, set it ablaze, spread its ashes over every direction, north, south, east, west, and they returned home and lived happily ever after.